Hello guys, welcome. Today we are going through theory of the consumer behavior, approaches to the theory of the consumer. We have cardinal versus ordinal approach. Two major theories explains the behavior of the consumer. Neither present a totally complete picture. First approach is the marginal utility or cardinalist. Second approach is the indifference curve analysis or the ordinalist approach. The cardinal utility approach. The downward sloping nature of the demand curve can be explained by using the law of diminishing marginal utility. Consumer equilibrium can be written as follows. MUX, which is MU subscript X, is marginal utility of X, all over PX, which is the price in shillings of X, is equals to MU subscript Y, which is the marginal utility of Y, all over PY, which is the price in shillings of Y. Any number of commodities may then be added to the equation. The table below gives the hypothetical marginal utility figures for a consumer who wishes to distribute expenditure of K summation of 44 between three commodities X, Y, and Z. So we have 4 columns and 8 rows. The first columns we have kilogram consumed. The second column we have X. The third column we have Y, which is euros, 4 euros per kg. X is 8 euros per kg. And the fourth column we have Z, which is 2 euros per kg. So 1 kg consumed, we have 72 euros in X, 60 euros in Y, 64 euros in Z columns. 2 kilogram consumed is equals to 48 euros in X, 44 euros in Y, 56 euros in Z. 3 kg consumed is 40 euros in X, 32 euros in Y, 40 euros in Z. 4 kg consumed is 36 euros in X, 24 euros in Y, 28 euros in Z. 5 kg consumed is equals to 32 euros in X per kg, 20 euros in Y per kg, 16 euros in Z per kg. 6 kg consumed is equals to 20 euros in X, 8 euros in Y, 12 euros in Z. 7 kg consumed is equals to 12 euros in X, 4 euros in Y, 8 euros in Z. In order to maximize utility, the consumer must distribute available income so that we have marginal utility of of X all over price of X is equals to marginal utility of Y all over price of Y is equals to marginal utility of Z all over price in shillings of Z in euros. From the table you can see that this yields a selection where the consumer buys 2 kg of X, 4 kg of Y, and 6 kg of Z. Hence 48 all over 8 is equals to 24 all over 4, 12 is equals to 12 all over 2. If the consumer wishes to spend all the 44 euros, it is impossible to distribute it in any other way, which would yield a greater quality. This theorem is called the concept of equi-marginal utilities. We move to the demand curve. Suppose that starting from a condition of equilibrium, the price of X falls relative to Y. We now have a condition where utility from the last shilling spent on X will be greater than Y. Mathematically, this can be written as marginal utility of X all over price in shillings of X is greater than marginal utility of y all over price in shillings of y. In order to restore equilibrium, the consumer will buy more of x and in bracket and less of y, thus reducing the marginal utility of x. The consumer will continue substituting x for y until equilibrium is achieved. Thus, we have attained the normal demand relationship at ceteris paribus. As the price of x falls, more of it is bought. We have therefore a normal downward sloping demand curve. The demand curve we have derived is the individual's demand curve for a product. The market demand curve can be then obtained by aggregating all the individual demand curve. The explanation we have obtained here is the price or in bracket or substitute, the bracket effect. Then we move to market demand and consumer surplus. Suppose that the market price of a cup of coffee is 4 euros, but the consumer was willing to pay 9 euros for the first unit, 8 euros for the second, 7 euros for the third, 6 euros for the fourth, 5 euros for the fifth, and 4 euros for the sixth. However, he pays the market price for all the 6 cups. The consumer thus earns a surplus on the first 5 units consumed. A measure of the difference between the value that consumer places on their total consumption of some commodity and the amount they actually pay for it. For continuous demand curves, consumer's surplus can be measured by the area under the demand curve and above the price. The shaded area represents utility which the consumer received but did not pay for, i.e. consumer surplus, which is 5 euros plus 4 euros plus 3 euros plus 2 euros plus 1 euros, which is equals to 15 euros. Then we move to ordinal approach. In 1930, a group of economists came to believe that cardinal measurement of utility was not necessary. They argued that demand behavior could be explained with ordinal numbers, that is, first, second, third, and so on. It's sufficient simply to place in order consumer preference. To investigate this, we must investigate indifference curve, utility analysis, marginal utility, law of diminishing marginal utility. We move to utility. What is a utility? Utility is the amount of satisfaction derived from the consumption of a commodity or service at a particular time. Utility is not inherent but a psychological satisfaction, marginal utility. The extra utility derived from the consumption of one more unit of a good, the consumption of all other goods remaining unchanged. The law of diminishing marginal utility. Hapo kwa comment you can try to tell me what is the law of diminishing marginal utility. Please state it there. Okay, let's move on. It states that as the quantity of a good consumed by an individual increases, the marginal utility of the good will eventually decrease. Limitation of cardinal approach. Utility cannot be measured objectively. The assumption of constant marginal utility of money is unrealistic because as income increases, the marginal utility of money also increases. The assumption of diminishing marginal utility is a psychological law, that is a feeling that cannot be quantified. Then we move to indifference curve analysis. Who knows indifference curve analysis? Please sema hapo kwa comments. Yeah, please. We move on. In order to explain indifference curves, we will again make the simplifying assumption that the consumer buys two goods, X and Y. The table below gives a number of combination of X and Y, which the consumer considers to give the same satisfaction as, for example, combination C of 6x plus 4y is those to give the same satisfaction as D, where 7x plus 2y and 2y are consumed. then the consumer is thus said to be indifferent as to which combination they have, hence the name given to this type of analysis. An indifference schedule: you have 2 columns and 5 rows. We have on the first column we have combination of combination units of x. The second column we have units of y. The second row we have 1 in combination unit of x. We have 12 units of y. 4 units of x, we have 7 units of y. 6 units of x, we have 4 units of y. 7 units of x, we have 2 units of y. Then we have a curve on the graph there, slightly curved, slightly curved, like it is curved. We have good y on the y axis and good x on the x axis. Such a graph is called an indifference curve. It moves from y to x, but curves at some point here. An indifference curve shows the line of combination of the amounts of 2 goods, say x and y, such that the individual is indifferent between all combination on that curve. We move to theories of demand and supply and consumer behavior. At each point on the indifference curve, the consumer believes that the same amount of utility is reached. Properties of indifference curve. Does anyone know the properties of indifference curve? Please highlight it on the comment section there as we move on. An indifference curve is usually convex to the origin. It slopes downward from left to right. A set of indifferent curves with each successive curve lying outside the previous one in a northeast direction is called an indifference map. The curves do not cross, as this would isolate the axiom of transitivity of preference. Each curve is a graphical representation of a utility function expressed as u is equals to f of x and y, where u is a predetermined level of utility. X and y are 2 commodities to be consumed in combination to guide u. The slope of the indifference curve gives the rate at which the consumer is willing to exchange one unit of a product for units of another. This is called the marginal rate of substitution. Then we move to the budget line and economic interpretation. But indifference curve shows us consumer preference, but it does not show us the situation in the marketplace. Here the consumer is constrained by income and by the prices of x and y. And then we have budget line. A budget line shows all the combination of 2 products which can be purchased with a given level of income. The slope of the line shows the relative prices of the 2 commodities. Then move to consumer equilibrium. We have the effects of changes in prices and incomes, or consumer equilibrium. The consumer equilibrium. Does anyone know consumer equilibrium? Please, if you know, please kindly highlight it at the comment section. So as we proceed, we have to we demonstrate the consumer's equilibrium, i.e. the point at which the consumer maximizes utility with a given budget. We need to combine the indifference map and the budget line. The consumer obtains maximum utility from a budget of AF by choosing the combination of X and Y, representing by C, where the marginal rate of substitution is equal to the relative prices of X and Y. Then we have a curve where we have a line running from the y-axis to the x-axis, which is line AB. Then we have curves. We have 4 curves which illustrate the indifference curves, which is it goes like this, it's like a C, and the straight line and the line that is moving from from y-axis to the x-axis, it touches the y-axis at the highest, and then touches the x-axis also at the highest level. So it touches also the curves of indifference, the curve of indifference. I think that is what is maximizing the utility. That is the equilibrium of the consumer. I think that is the one. Then we proceed on to the effect of changes in income and the price on consumer equilibrium, which is there are changes in income, we have increase in income, fall in income, which will continue in the next episode. Please subscribe, comment and like, and also comment on that effect of changes in income and prices on consumer equilibrium, and how the video is. Thank you. Please subscribe, comment, like. Adios.